Oh, if only it were possible in my current state. I'd let a Toreador skin me, douse me in kerosene, and set me on fire. Only if it would want to tend to my wounds later. Alas, some wishes had to be fulfilled when it was time for them. You think the heart of this house has stopped beating just because I've been cold for a long time? Young dragon, even for our kind, affection in any form is no stranger. Her name was Azila of Bucharest, and I have to admit, the only Toreador who knew how to tug at my heartstrings. What would I give for her to run fingers up my spines and down again? A bullfighter? Well, you're not far off. Let's open this mind, which is the Book of Nod, and look into the distant past of the Rose clan of the artisans, Epicureans, aesthetes, and degenerates. Know this, young dragon. If the Ventru clan is the mind of the Camarilla, the Toreadors are its soul. For some kindred, this clan is the height of beauty, grace, even something that can be called love in our society. Poor are those who believe that the Toreadors represent the beauty of undead existence. Although they seem to closest be to the human race, they are also monstrous parasites. Perhaps the worst of us. Their existence is divided from the very roots. Well, they can't even agree on who their father or mother is. Some claim that Arikel, Malkavian's twin, is the first member of the Rose clan. They say that Cain's child Enoch is the father of Arikel, and she is the oldest antediluvian. She was an artist. Her hands made sculptures, figures, beautiful vases, and most of the art in the first city was from her hands alone. Know that the Book of Nod should not be trusted blindly, because these events are so long ago that time has distorted and hidden the truth. Because some more ancient Toreadors, even than me, say that Arikel was not the first of them, but Ishtar, also known as Astarte, somewhere in Anna. Yes, many among our kindred have their own versions of the stories, who wants to tell them, or is aware of them, and the most ancient of us hid amongst kine as gods, by which names we still know them today. The Book of Nod writes, Arikel and Troil did not like the way all Cainites were running the first city, so they asked Saulot for help. Vidar Saulot told them that only pity and empathy would give them the ability to connect with kine. So they too decided to spend 100 years and one day making an unknown piece of art which, when it was finished, amazed the kindred as much as Cain. Cain himself was touched by their actions so much that he forgave them some unknown misdeed from the past. This is said to be the root of the path of humanity. Anyhow, some of the clan's scholars claim that Arikel's heart was devoured by Abzimilard and Set, the progenitors of the Nosferatu and Setite clans, which cannot be because I know from my reliable sources that Arikel reappeared sometime before the First Punic Wars, where she was an advisor to Prince Alkias of the city of Syracuse. Be aware, my young one, that these are spans of time, even for our species, quite large, but some things even time cannot hide. There is another belief. After being embraced, Arikel painted a mural depicting the past, present, and future of the entire kindred society, and when Cain saw the dire future of his children, he cursed her with what is now an affliction that still afflicts Toreadors today. Their most beloved art is now their supernatural obsession and mental distraction above all else. Because if the Toreador sees something that is beautiful to his eyes, his heart will dance and his whole body will stop as if hexed into the ground. He will look almost impossible to tear himself away from the object until he can take his eyes off it by force of will or some other reason. But it doesn't have to be a painting, a sculpture, or a vase, or even a moving picture. It can also be one's own reflection, a bird in flight, a murmur of a stream, the sound of waves. It can happen that a kindred of this clan gazes at the sun itself, which appears in the east. You have enough grey matter in that intact skull of yours, my dear, to figure out for yourself how such people end up. Anyhow, that's one side of the story. Another is that Ishtar of Ubar is the first of the clan. So beautiful was she that her beauty and bull-dancing grace had to be preserved in immortality. When the one from above sent the flood upon the world after the antediluvians had slaughtered their parents, and when Cain returned, he cast angry curses on everyone except for her, because he believed she was innocent. Ishtar knew well the nature of kindred, and she wisely fled from the vengeance of her brothers and sisters to Sumer, where she embraced Tammuz. She then tried to steal the tablets of fate from Enkidu, who was one of Enoya's children, the progenitor of Gangrel clan. And this enraged Enoya, who took Ereshkigal under her wing for help. When the two caught her, Tammuz gave its life for Ishtar, and she fled further to Sumer, where she sought help from King Gilgamesh, who unfortunately for her was already of Enoya's blood. When Gilgamesh started hunting for her also, the Toreador managed to escape again, unleashing a mysterious monster known as the Bull of Heaven. For any clear information on this, I would give a great boon and gifts. One of the tasks, if your unlife lasts long enough and we return from the Middle East, no? Toreadors had a strong presence in the early Minoan cultures of Greece. Toreadors attribute many classic stories as distorted versions of the real mixing of mortals and Canaanites, such as the story of the Minotaur, or the story of Tantalos and Pelops. Their bickering, however, weakened the first civilization of Mycenae, as the kindred drew their sustenance from the kine, which had become anemic to defend itself against foreign invaders. After the fall of Mycenae to the Dorians, the Toreadors roamed the Mediterranean, often seeking refuge with the Roman Ventrus or the Carthaginian Brujas. At first, the Toreadors supported both sides on their struggle, but when it became clear that Carthago would lose, many Toreadors left the city and joined the Roman forces, bringing with them stories of debauchery and hellish rituals that drove the Ventru to raze the city to the ground. Toreadors began to invade the Rome, often competing with the Ventru and Malkavians in culture and politics. But when the glory of Rome began to fade, one of them, the Toreador Michael, left Rome to follow Constantine to Nova Roma to rebuild the big dream which had failed in Rome, much to the shock of many of the Toreador elders. Constantinople became a beacon of Canaanite power and glory until the city was sacked by the Fourth Crusade in 1204, I think, and the original Canaanite population either fled or was destroyed. Oh, how I wish I could walk through the streets of that old town again. There was a beautiful flower shop where I often stopped on my travels. My father did not approve of this, For him, Constantinople was always and will always remain Caracalla. The old fool. Personally, I don't approve of what Methuselah Vashtaj of Toreador has done to the city, neither does his child Nakshidil, but some compromises have to be made if you want to keep your head on your shoulders. In general, if you want to visit Constantinople, the city doors are open to you. Any kindred can walk the streets at night. Yes, even our clan, even the Sabbat, if you don't raise a jeva and respect traditions. Why is that so? I will reveal to you one of my personal secrets. My spies bring me news that is those who return. A kindred sleeps under the city. Very ancient, very powerful, but relatively docile. About him, some other evening. After the formation of the Camarilla, thanks to the efforts of the Toreador Rafael de Corazon, some of the members left the clan itself after the formation of the Sabbat, the most famous for that Ariana of Estergom. Toreador Antitribu are the dark reflections of their Camarilla cousins. While they are beautiful social butterflies, their weakness is twisted so that all Antitribu derive joy from the emotional, physical, and mental suffering of others. Oh, beautiful succubi, brave incubi, how I love them. For us elders, the Renaissance was an incredibly interesting era. As one of the most powerful clans in Europe, the Toreadors thrived in France as the cultural nexus of Europe, enjoying the works of various new artists such as Michelangelo and Da Vinci, as well as the works of Shakespeare and the invention of mirror. Don't look at me like that. We had polished silver, gold, obsidian, but the mirror as you know it today was something absolutely new and beautiful. Do you know that I was the first to bring a mirror to this swampland? The same ones who ground their feet to the bone to bring it to me still keep it in my house as a sign of gratitude. For some years now I have been planning to return their limbs and eyes because they have served me well. Sadly, there was also a decline for the clan. Many Toreadors began to turn from spiritually motivated conservationism to selfish hedonism that still plagues them today, I notice. Unfortunately, after the Renaissance, everything became so dreary, gloomy, and dull, without color, without soul, that I decided to go to torpor. Until more modern times. Believe me, if there was no noise in the 80s, I would not wake up yet. In modern times, the Toreadors are still a noble and aristocratic clan, but I see that now new arts are emerging. Wall painters, number magicians of banks, and even artists behind monitors can be embraced, although the elders among the clans, I hear, consider this a pollution of the ideal for which the clan once stood for. Many nights are filled with one Toreador arguing with another over what can be considered true art, and each Toreador's opinion is different as the definition of art itself. That's why I keep 3 of them here as guests. I appreciate their opinions about my house and furniture, but about that, if you want, another time. Take a short break to write down what was said, and we will continue the lessons later.